Now, here on Pillar, let's talk about. We talked a lot on the show on Drive earlier on about the talks between Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump taking place in a couple of hours' time in the White House. A lot more has also been going on in Washington, D.C. Just before we came on air, we heard that Robert F. Kennedy had passed the crucial stage on his way to being confirmed as Donald Trump's health secretary.
I move that the committee favorably report the nomination of the Honorable Robert F. Kennedy, Jr. of California to be Secretary of Health and Human Services. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Grassley.
Aye.
Mr. Grassley, aye. Mr. Cornyn.
Aye.
Mr. Cornyn, aye.
And just like that, Robert F. Kennedy passed that hurdle on the way to becoming health secretary. A lot of people would have been surprised at that not so very long ago. Harriet Alexander joins us from America, U.S. correspondent for The Times. Hello, Harriet.
Hello.
Well, this is not an uncontroversial man, he said in the understatement of the night. How did it go, this confirmation hearing?
Well, it went very much along party lines. The fact that they had to have the full committee present actually speaks volumes, because the Republicans were worried that there might be even rebellion within their own ranks. This was going to come principally from somebody called Bill Cassidy. Cassidy is a senator for Louisiana, and he's also a doctor. So he is someone who has said that he's got real concerns about RFK Jr.'s policy on vaccinations in particular, but he has since said that he spoke to Kennedy over the weekend, that they had a constructive conversation, and he now felt able to vote in favour of it. It's also worth noting that Cassidy himself is up for re-election next year, so that may have had something to do with it.
Right. And then what about the very well-known background now of Robert F. Kennedy when it comes to not just scepticism, but denial about vaccines in the past? I mean, how did that play?
Yes, I mean, Democrats were all over this, as you can imagine, in the hearing, pointing in particular to what happened in Samoa, which was when RFK's foundation really seized on a campaign there, group of activists who did not want their children vaccinated against measles. He really poured fuel on that fire. Children actually died as a result of that. So that's what Democrats have been seizing on, saying that it's dangerous to have someone who holds these views in charge of such an incredibly important part of the United States government.
Right, and also this evening we're going to be seeing Tulsi Gabbard, who's Donald Trump's picked to oversee the security and intelligence agencies of the United States, a very important, powerful position. Tulsi Gabbard, of course, has spanned the whole spectrum of opinion pretty much in American politics. She has also, in the past, spoken, rather favourably of Vladimir Putin and the now deposed dictator of Syria, Bashar al-Assad. How's that going to go?
That's actually a really interesting one. I mean, when you think Donald Trump has a series of quite eyebrow-raising nominees for cabinet positions, Pete Hegseth, who got confirmed as defense secretary, Kash Patel, who wants to be the FBI director, Kennedy, and Gabbard. Gabbard was seen as being perhaps more slick and more polished because she has been a senator for Hawaii previously. But actually, she's really faced some challenges. And this in large part is because she was not willing to call Edward Snowden a traitor. She was asked this repeatedly by Republicans, and this didn't do her any favor at all. And some pretty hardcore, quite prominent Republicans came out of that hearing saying that they actually were having second thoughts about her and that they were really worried about her reaction to the Snowden question.
Yeah, I mean, there's more process to go through, Harriet, but can you see President Trump getting his way now with the rest of his big picks for the cabinet, controversial or otherwise?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, John, the way things are rolling at the moment, yes, you wouldn't bet against it, would you? I mean, it just seems incredible, the momentum that he has, the force with which things are being shoved through, the policies that are being enacted. It seems like there's very little resistance at any level. The Democrats are sort of hand-wringing and despairing, but at the moment they haven't got their act together to block any of this. So I certainly wouldn't bet against Gabbard securing the nomination.
Right, fascinating to hear from you, Harriet. Thank you. Harriet Alexander there, the US correspondent for The Times, on the latest on Capitol Hill.
Donald Trump said that he was going to allow Mr. Robert Kennedy to, quote, go wild on health. Go wild. Of all the things that I can think of that I'd like to see a Secretary of Health and Human Services do, go wild is not on the list. Mr. Robert Kennedy is manifestly unqualified for the job he seeks. And in both my live and written questions for the record, he failed to commit to protecting access to affordable health care. He's unqualified, and I dare say everybody here knows it. We need a serious person at the helm of the HHS, an agency responsible for about half of the health of about half of all Americans. Mr. Kennedy appears more obsessed in chasing conspiracy theories than chasing solutions to lower health care costs for working families in Georgia and to make sure that we are protected. The last thing we need is a dilettante dabbling in conspiracy theories at HHS.
I hope he goes wild and actually finds a way to reduce the cost of health care. I hope he goes wild, and instead of having the discussions that we have had for the 10 years that I've been in the Senate of making Medicaid work and making people on Medicaid healthier, I hope he goes wild and figures out how to do it, because the status quo has not achieved much in the way of gain.
He asked me, and anybody who actually goes and looks at that podcast and will see this, he asked me, are there vaccines that are safe and effective? And I said to him, some of the live virus vaccines are. And I said, there are no vaccines that are safe and effective, and I was going to continue for every person. Every medicine has people who are sensitive to them, including vaccines.
Right, so
he interrupted me at that point. I've corrected it many times, including on national TV. You know about this, Senator Wyden, so bringing this up right now is dishonest.
let's be clear about what you've actually done then, since you want to deny your statements. For example, you have a history of trying to take vaccines away from people. In May of 2021, you petitioned the Food and Drug Administration to not only block Americans from having access to the COVID vaccine, but to prevent any future access to the life-saving vaccine. Are you denying that? Your name is on the petition.
We brought that petition after CDC recommended the COVID vaccine without any scientific basis for 6-year-old children.